Hi everyone. In this module, we are going to learn about the startup phase in clinical data management. We have already learned what is clinical data management. So it is a process of collecting, cleaning and management of subject data, keeping the number of errors and missing data as low as possible and gather maximum data for analysis. In clinical data management, there are three different phases. Those include startup phase, conduct phase and closeout phase. These phases are created based on the activities. Startup phase consists of activities like creation of CRF and designing of the same. Once the designing is completed, the database designing and testing will be performed. Post that, the EduCheck document will be prepared and the same will be tested through a process called as user acceptance testing. At the same time, certain documents also needs to be prepared. Those documents includes data management plan, ECRF completion guidelines, data validation plan, SIE reconciliation guideline, etc. In further slides, we can discuss about the guidelines and documents which are related to this particular phase. Now let us see the steps involved in the startup phase activity. So what we are going to do once we receive the protocol, the same needs to be trained by the qualified team member. Then you will start reading the protocol and you will understand the same. Post that, you will see what are all the study documents which are available needs to be collected. Then the first step involved in the activity includes this preparation of clinical data specification sheet. The same is also called as ECRF requirement sheet. Then, based on the CDSS which is prepared, the CRF will be designed accordingly. Post that, and another set of team will start doing the screen UAT or the UI testing for the CRF which are designed. Then, the document needs to be prepared simultaneously includes the annotated CRF document. Once these documents are prepared, then EduCheck specification sheet and manual listings needs to be created. Once EduCheck specification sheet document is created or is in process, the same will be programmed by. Once the programming is completed, then the UAT process will be initiated along with the test scripts which are available. Post that, the sponsor also tests the same against the system. Once the testing process is completed, the sponsor will provide the approval for CRFs which are built in the database. Post that, the same will be released to the production database. Once it is released, the database is so live. So once the database is live, the team will start preparing the reports because you have to understand what type of reports are required for the analysis. The same needs to be created so that in future it will help in generation. So what are all the steps needs to be considered prior to ECRF designing? So who will do which activity? The lead data manager or the project lead will ensure to collect all study relevant documents and protocol from the sponsor or the CRO team. Prior to drafting the CRF, a thorough training and study of final protocol must be undertaken by the lead data manager and project lead. DMP must be drafted according to the final study protocol prior to CRF designing and other related steps because DMP serves as a main document in clinical data management process. DMP is a document detailing the activities and guidelines undertaken for successful implementation of data management process. So who will prepare the DMP? Lead data manager or a project lead or clinical data analyst will prepare the DMP, which will be always a draft version in the initial phase on the basis of final study protocol. What are all the aspects to be covered in DMP? Those includes the DMP development, DMP summary, and then the project specific training records, creation of ECRF guideline, creation of data validation guideline, creation of non-CRF data guideline, creation of data coding guideline, QC guideline, database security, data entry activities, the execution of edit checks and query management, SAE reconciliation and data transfer progress reporting, finally a QC review, database log and transfer of study documents and data handling report needs to be created. So this document is always a live document. Though this document is prepared in the startup phase activity, this document will serve as a live document throughout the cycle of data management. So let us see what DMP development and summary is. It is a document mentioning how the data management plan would be developed, designed according to the study protocol, project-specific training records. These documents which are used for sponsors, data management team, study team as well as the site team for providing them a local access or study access will be planned in the data management. Creation of ECRF guideline. What is CRF and why it is designed? CRF is designed to collect the patient data in a clinical research. And why this guideline is important? A CRF completion guideline is a document to assist the investigator to complete the CRF in a step-by-step manner and is drafted concurrently in line with the CRF and protocol. And this document should have version control and amendment should be done as and when required. When we do the amendments, when there is an amendment to the protocol or any data item is missed out during the initial phase, if you want to add such data points to your CRF form, then the same needs to be tracked. That is why we use a version control along with the data. So what is mentioned here is that prior to CRF drafting and designing, this guideline will be planned accordingly, which will consist all the study site procedure for the CRF designing process and study documents required in this guideline will be mentioned. So what are all the aspects will be covered? How this user is going to log into the system, how they are going to add the subject, how to perform the data entry, and how the discrepancy needs to be managed and the signature process of investigators. Not only limited to how the reports can be extracted. Then creation of data validation guideline. The planning for data validation guideline would be done while drafting the data management plan. This is a document dealing the activities that outlines the procedure for study-specific validation and query management throughout the study as per the data management system used. Creation of non-CRF data guideline. It is a document consisting guidelines for handling of non-CRF data. Those include central lab reports and medical coding data, etc., which are not going to be entered into the ADC system, and to ensure timely and accurate import of data into the CDMS. So direct entry is not performed into the ADC system, but import of data can occur or the same data also can be shared to the statistician for analysis. It will consist of several requirements, that is, what format of data to be imported, what medium of transfer will be used, what is the frequency of data to be transferred, and data transfer specification document also needs to be created. Data coding guideline provides the detailed activities for the study-specific coding of the medical condition and treatments recorded as per the CDMS system used. This guideline also describes the further coding methods, like whether it will be auto-coded or manually coded, or the coded term will be uploaded to the software, or it will be directly shared to the biostatistician for further analysis. Creation of QC guideline. This guideline describes the procedure for creating and implementing quality control plan at all the phases throughout the study. It gives a brief idea about when the QC activity to be performed. For example, in startup phase, the QC activity will be performed post annotated document is prepared, whether the same will be tested against the EDC platform, etc. Creation of SAE reconciliation guideline. This guideline describes the procedure to ensure that the data captured in the study database, that is your clinical database, is consistent or similar to the safety database. So it mentioned the procedure how to reconcile the SAEs reported during the trial and which is recorded in the study database against your safety database. Then creation of data transfer guidelines. So what activities are considered? So this guideline is required to handle the data transfer and to ensure timely and accurate transfer of data of project according to study or sponsor specific requirements. So what are all the key aspects are required in this guideline? So what format of data to be transferred, medium of transfer, frequency of transfer, and the data transfer specification document. Along with that, validation of data transfer needs to be considered and should be performed as per the guidelines mentioned above. So now let us see in detail how the CDSS is prepared. So LDM or PL shall assign members to the CRF design team, which may include CDA, that is clinical data analyst, and the clinical project manager or biostatistician. Team will start working on the specification sheet based on the requirements of the CDMS used. CDSS will consist of all the data collection items or points based on study procedures, primary and efficacy endpoints, your safety parameters and other plans provided in the protocol and ensure its compliance according to the CDISC format. The format for CDSS will vary from one organization to the other organization. So the CDSS prepared should contain the basic columns such as variable name, variable label, variable type, variable format, length and comments. Also, we should ensure that the prepared CDSS and the capture data points are compatible with the statistical analysis system. So that is why the data specification sheet is circulated within the CPM biostatistician and any other key stakeholder for review and approval. So this will ensure that CDSS is in accordance with the CDISC formats because the same is reviewed by the statistician. Lead data manager or CDA or the project lead will upload the CRF in the test environment in the CDMS used in draft version. After the CRF is uploaded in the test environment, screen UAT or UI testing will be performed by any one of the team member on the basis of CRF uploaded in the test environment. If there are any errors while performing the screen UAT, the same will be recorded in a form called a database testing error log form. If any of the changes are recommended by the tester, the same will be documented as a review comment. The team will incorporate the review comments in CDSS and also update the respective documents. Again, LDM or PL or CDA will upload the amended CRF in the test environment and will validate the test data according to the data validation guideline. So the versions also will change accordingly. Annotated CRF will be prepared simultaneously and will be sent for review and approval process to the required stakeholders as applicable. So the required stakeholders may be the sponsor, statistician or the clinical operations team. Post that, QC will be performed while creation and designing process of CRF according to the quality control plan. Prior to the annotated CRF drafting, the data specification sheet document must be prepared and approved by all the stakeholders. So LDM will start preparing the draft version of the CRF based on the draft CRF uploaded in the test environment. An annotated CRF can be defined as a blank CRF with markings or annotations that coordinate each data point in the form with its corresponding variable name and question label. Basically, annotated CRF describes where the data is collected for each question is stored in the corresponding data sets. So then the CTA or the LDM or PL will prepare the table of content of all study visit schedules and the CRF captured in each visit And they also capture the screenshot of all unique CRF and paste the screen image under the appropriate section. So each CRF section, a table will be incorporated to identify the below properties of the CRF. So the CRF has many data points. So what are all the headers which comes in? What question it is, what type of data it is, what response type is used, and instructions. The draft version of the annotated document will be circulated with the operations team, biostatistician and medical coder, because the medical history page, surgical history or the concomitant medication page also available in the document. Hence the medical coder input is also required, so the same will be sent for their review and approval. A QC also will be performed once the document is finalized according to the quality control plan. If any errors are identified, and same will be documented in the QC log and QC report. The next process is edit check programming and UAT. The edit check specification is a document which contains all the checks based on which programming will be performed in the CDMS to raise discrepancies if the data is not valid as per the checks. The rules or checks are based on criteria defined as per the protocol and logical consistency of the data across CRFs. For example, a particular data item which requires a maximum length of only 3 digits. So if the user is trying to enter in more than 3 digits, then the system needs to alert the user there is a possibility of error or the data could be more than the required limit or allotted limit. So the system will alert the user to re-verify the same. So this is how the validation is involved in the CDMS system. So the document will be circulated with CPM once it is ready for their review of clinical operations team and other stakeholders if required. The database programmer or administrator will start programming and uploading these checks in the CDMS test environment. Once the checks are uploaded, the LDM or CDA will validate the rules in the test environment by creating test patients in the CDMS and enter the test data to validate data entered in the CRF for its properties and for the checks applied as per the edit check specification document. The LDM or PL or CDA will start preparing the UAT log, which will identify the clean and dirty data for the discrepancies for rule or the checks executed. Manual listings will be defined, programmed and validated simultaneously with edit check specification sheet, and if there are any errors are identified during the UAT process, same will be reported in the UAT log. Post completion of the UAT process, and UAT sign-off form needs to be completed. Once it is completed, it shows that all the CRFs are in the final stage. Once the CRF is final, the sponsor CRF approval form should be signed by the sponsors. Once all the rules and programs are executed properly, the same will be uploaded in the live database and a release to production form will be signed by the all relevant stakeholders. If any changes are to be made in the live database to the existing validation process or rules or program, then a post-production change request form should be completed. So it is mentioned here because after DB Live, any process needs to be repeated. This form is mandatory. So if there are any amendments in the design of the CRF, it must be list out the changes and provide a justification for the same. All the changes made in CRF should be documented in the summary of changes in the CRF section. So again, an annotated document for the same needs to be revised. It will be shown with an incremental of version along with the date. Quality Control Plan is a comprehensive document detailing the tasks and milestones during the course of study. The QC activities need to be undertaken for the successful implementation of Quality Control Plan. So the Quality Control Plan shows that at what are all the activities the QC will be performed during the startup phase. So those includes ECRF creation and designing. So once the ECRF is created and designed, and screen UAT or UI testing will be performed. Once the corresponding team completes the testing activity, then it goes to the QC team for further testing. Next comes the annotation of CRF. So once the annotated document is prepared, again the document needs to be verified against the CRF which is available in the system. So once this also is completed and user acceptance testing for the data, so which shows that the EdCheck programming is completed as per the EdCheck specification document. The QC for UAT will be performed once the UAT is completed by the team. QC team will perform the UAT by selecting 5% of randomly selected edit checks or fields or as agreed with the sponsor. So the QC team will not perform 100% UAT for all the fields. So it will be done only for the selected percentage of population or checks. If any errors are identified and if any measures to be taken are further documented in a document called QC issue log, and same will be reported in the QC report. Preparation of listings and reports. Reports are the list of data extracts or your CRF extracts acquired from the insight module or your reporting module, from which we get to know the monthly progress of the study. As a part of startup phase, list of reports and listing name is to be shared with the sponsor. Sometimes sponsors may also have a specific requirements for the same. So once we receive those requirements, same will be listed and will be included in the reporting module section. So what are all the general reports are extracted? So the SDV status or the PI sign status, the forms which are missing, the query site status event form, that is the discrepancy status per site and the discrepancy count per site, and SDV status summary, query detailed report, then subject wise visit status, query aging. This is important because sometimes the site does not respond to the discrepancies which are raised in the system. So how many days the query is open, then the site monitors needs to take an action or they have to take a follow up with the site to complete the discrepancies or respond to the discrepancies, and any additional study specific reports or as per sponsors expected. So once this is done, the users who are going to use the system needs to be trained. So once the CRF is ready and their checks are also programmed and uploaded in the test environment, the CDA team will start preparing the training programs to the below mentioned stakeholders. They are the operations team. Operations teams are nothing but the monitors, the project managers, and other QC reviewers in the operations team. Then the site team. So those includes the site research coordinators or the principal investigators, sub-investigators, etc. Apart from that, DM team also needs to be trained. So those who are going to work on the conduct phase also needs to be trained on the systems. Other than that, the sponsor of course needs to be trained because they are going to view the study progress in the EDC platform. So each stakeholder will be trained on the CDMS based on their role, how they are going to access the system, because everyone doesn't need the entire life cycle of the system. So the CDM team will train the users according to their role. There are multiple forms or documents are involved in different process of startup phase activity. So the data specification sheet is used in ECRF designing and CRF creation process. Then a database testing error log form is used for your screen UAT or UI testing. Annotated CRF document is prepared and the same to be reviewed and signed by the key stakeholders. EdCheck specification document and programming, these will be circulated within the operations team or other stakeholders. Then UAT log and UAT sign-off process, QC log and QC report. Then the sponsor CRF approval form needs to be signed by the sponsors. Post that, release to production approval form will be generated and same will be signed by the concerned stakeholders. Now the system is ready. Post that any changes are performed, the summary of changes in CRF needs to be created. So any modification post DB live, a post production change request form needs to be generated. So once the form is generated, then the team will start the activity. So as the same process is already shown in the earlier, what are all the plans and guidelines are used, and the process for ECRF preparation and completion guidelines, process for annotated CRF preparation and review, DMPA, edit check programming, post-production change request, data validation guideline, SAE reconciliation, data coding guideline, handling of non-CRF data, process for database log, quality control in data management, clinical data management project filing, handling data transfers, handling data reports, training on systems, and how the protocol deviation and violation. Thank you.